What's up, Dragon Brood? It's warrior fighting time. Well, that's terrible. I could have done better. Have you? Okay, for those of you that have seen like Robot Wars, it's robot fighting. Never mind. If you know, you know, I guess. Anyway, I looked at this set when it was coming out, and when I saw the first two Berserkers that got spoiled, I was kind of like, oh, I guess there's not going to be any warriors really. But then it turns out there were actually some warriors. And that's actually cool because I found some cards that fit into this list perfectly. So we now have a Boros Warriors list that we're going to be playing. But before we do that, as always, you know I'm going to ask if you haven't, please remember to like this video because that helps our video be seen by more people. Then hit the subscribe button because that helps me grow my audience. And then hit the notification bell because that'll make sure you get notified every time one of these videos come out because we're going to keep putting them up until Kaldheim comes out. Anyway, let's go take a look at this Boros Warriors list. I almost messed that up. One of those days. Too much content coming out. Now, the best thing to happen to this list is that we got some better small early drops that can allow us to apply some pressure. And then we got one or two things that help us out a little bit in the mid game. So really excited about that. And some things that actually can help you kind of buff your team up. And that's also very good. So starting at the top here, we've got our, I was going to say favorite, but he's not really a favorite. He just does some things really well. Fireblade Charger. And I know some people kind of waver on like, well, I want to play Selfless Savior or something else there. But here's the thing. This is a warrior. It actually has a bonus that when it dies, it gets to deal its damage to a target. And that can be a player. And we're playing in a thing that plays equipment. So it's very possible we can get this up to a 3 power. We can pump it with a War Leader and get it a 4 power. Maybe even more. You know, it wouldn't be unreal for this to be a 4 or a 5 power thing. Then when it dies, you get to go 5 to whatever you want. So definitely the card we want of choice here. Then, you know, you've seen this in a couple of my lists already, the Usher of the Fallen. It's a 2/1 for 1. It's a Spirit Warrior. It's non-human, which will matter for Winota. It can make another token if your hand's just gummed up or you don't want to dedicate anything else to the field. It's just so good all around for a 1-mana creature. Seasoned Hollowblade is a human. You know, that's fine, but it is a 3/1. And we have ways of really making this hard for your opponent to deal with. So big fan of that, playing a full set of 4. We're playing full set of 4 Kargan Intimidators. And the reason the Intimidator is so good here is when everything is a warrior, you effectively, when you say like this creature can't block warriors or whatever, like they can't block anything. So it's not like one thing gets through. It's just like, oh, we basically, our whole team has unblockable. You know, like if you get duplicates on the table, then it gets really crazy. So big fan of that card in this list. Then we're playing a couple of Rally in the Ranks. And I will say the one downside to this list, the way I built it is our 2 drops are both humans. So that's a little bit of a setup. That's not great if you're worried about Winota. But everything else kind of fits in. So we sort of had to do it. But anyway, we have Rally in the Ranks for a couple of copies. Just obviously we'll choose Warriors and just pump our team up. You know, nothing real fancy, but it's a little bit of extra power. Then we have a couple of Akiris. Akiri is a 3/3. When you attack with something that's equipped, you get to draw a card. Or you can pay 1 and you can unattach an equipment to give the creature you unattach from indestructible. Now I can openly say I've only used the indestructible thing on Akiri 1 time, but I've used the first part a lot of times. And getting to just draw that extra, even if you just only get 2 extra cards off of it, it's actually really, really nice. And again, it's another card that's non-human if you're looking for something to play on that turn. So we're playing 3 Maul the Skyclaves because this card's great. It just gives the thing flying, gives you first strike, it gives you +2/+2. It's easy to equip in this list. So big fans of this card all the way around. Nothing to complain about, really. And then we're playing a full set of the Kargan War Leaders. This is give all other warriors +1 or +1, and it's a 3/3 for 3. Nothing wrong with this card. It does exactly what we needed to in this list. But we did find another 3-mana creature that I liked, and that was Resplendent Marshal. This has shown up in a couple of lists I've put together so far this season. But I think people miss the fact that this is an Angel Warrior, which is pretty sweet. So this, when it comes into play or when it dies, you can exile a creature from your graveyard and then give all other creatures with the shared type +1/+1. So cool. I'm all with it. We have a ton of cards here that are warriors, so it's almost like a free +1/+1 whenever you play this Marshal, assuming you're going to play it on like turn 4, turn 5 a lot of the times. Unless you just get the perfect draw and then just hit a Winota and then you're just off to the races. Then, speaking of which, we're playing 4 Winota. Could be a lot for this list. I'm willing to accept that. Like, we could possibly switch one of these for an additional equipment, maybe for an additional, like, 2 mana thing. But for now, we're going to leave it in and just see what happens. And then we have, oh, one Halvar. I did go with this for a few reasons. The first is Halvar's backside is an equipment. It's not great, but it does give something vigilance, I believe. And whenever the creature dies that's equipped, it goes back to your hand. So that's pretty awesome. You don't lose a creature. This also has the ability that anything that's equipped when it deals damage deals double strike. So that's pretty cool, right? So there's going to be a lot of times just like, cool, all right, I put the Maul of Skyclaves on the thing, attack. Next turn, if you're lucky enough to draw Halvar, you play it. And like now that thing's dealing double, that might just kill your opponent on turn 4, depending on how the thing went down. Because there's a lot of scenarios. You could go turn 1 creature, turn 2, let's say either Hollow Blade or Intimidator. Turn 3, Maul the Skyclaves, get in there for 5, plus whatever damage you already hit. And then you play Halvar the next turn, and well, that's 10. So that's already 15, plus if any other damage broke through, that could be the end of the game. So something to keep your eye on. Could be very interesting. Not saying it's going to happen that often because we're only playing one Halvar. But if it turns out Halvar is a stud in this list, we might come back and put more in. And then we're playing good old Embercleave for 3 copies, because sometimes just going creature, 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 Embercleave is enough. Like, not a lot, not more to say about that. It's just sometimes it just does what it does. The other thing I want to say too about the Fireblade Charger is it's also good defense against sweepers. There's a lot of times you can just, all right, well, I'm going to move the equipment over, set it on the charger, and if you end up sweeping the thing, you're going to take 4 or whatever. Like, that's a big deal too. Just keep that in mind. Lands, nothing too fancy here, sadly. We just have Castle Embereth, Mountains, Needleverge Pathway, Plains. I'm toying around with an idea of how to get the Faceless Land in here, maybe even for 2 copies, and then move things over to being Snowlands. So you might see that in the final list. But I'm not sure if it's worth it, because we can't really miss a drop to do what we're trying to do with this list. So we might just have to leave the lands as they are and then just go for it from that point. Now, I will say, this is a very reasonable best of 1 deck, just because sometimes you're just going to get lucky and Winota's going to clock your opponent. But there's other times, like this might actually be a decent best of 3 deck, because there are situations where you could build it where you can actually play Warrior Angel, which is kind of cool. That's a thing you could have access to if you're worried about long game spot removal situations. There's different choices of creatures we can move in or out, just depending on what the rest of the format looks like. Maybe you want to try to get some more first strikers in there or something. So there's some opportunity there if you want to mess around. So even if you want to build this one, if you like it, awesome. It even has a little bit of versatility depending on whether you're playing best of 1 or best of 3. And playing these 2 colors, you do get access to a lot of things that can remove artifacts or enchantments or whatever as necessary if you feel to add those in, if you feel it necessary to add those into the deck. So yeah, lots of cool opportunity here. I think this is a pretty fun one. I think there's always people who are fans of Winota list, so this is just one more way to go for it. Remember, if you haven't, please like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and keep an eye out for the deck list, because we're going to keep putting them out until Kaldheim hits the streets. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.